Hello, my name is Isaac. To introduce and begin forming my social work profile, my two key reflection points are on how the utilization of creative arts-based tools in social work practices can be implemented easily regardless of client skill level and can be used under different theories, and how specific forms of art-based therapy are used in aiding social work situations and client issues. Art, more specifically art-based therapy, can be extremely eye-opening for individuals and allow for extremely personal and abstract ways of looking at oneself, surrounding situations, or social structures. I will be showing off two pieces of art that act as a form of mental expression, and to gain a better understanding of deeper issues going on within my life. The first is this black and white drawing of a skeleton, dubbed the Skeleton King. This had been one of the first times I had tried drawing again for almost a year, going through a phase where I'd lost a lot of my motivation for my passions and saw things as very repetitive. Days went by without much of anything of note happening, things seeming very gray and boring. As such, after getting some inspiration from a video online, I decided to randomize a color palette, turn off the color settings of my monitor, and begin drawing, hoping that this would take shape to become something I could be really proud of and give something for me to work on. This took a few days to complete, 2 to 3 hours at a time. The end result is this. When I finally turned on the color and saw this amazing blending of colors, it really did shape the way I viewed things for a while, and made me appreciate my efforts in life a lot more and focus on what truly made me happy and inspired. It allowed me to, without words or even a specific intent in mind, put my mental thoughts, apprehensions, and struggles into a visual format, physically allowing myself to reflect and visualize on my thoughts. The second piece is much more focused on a goal, being made specifically for this assignment. If you have any sensitivity to flashing lights or images, I would recommend fast forwarding about 1.5 minutes forward. Here I'm trying to represent myself and my largest current emotional demons such as anger, depression, time anxiety. These mental struggles are physically manifested into monsters facing off and against a empowered version of myself. This, in the same way of giving a monster a silly name to a young child, humanizes them, making it easier and almost physically to fight your demons. Over the years, I've drawn many different creatures and monsters, often representing current emotional or mental struggles I'm facing. These manifestations make these emotions and struggles easier to cope with. The entire 4.5 process is recorded and being shown throughout this segment, if you'd like to see what my process looks like. Through the video above, you can see that I don't just use digital art, but a variety of different means to make my final works. I utilize 3D animation software to get proper proportions and perspectives, along with the traditional pen and paper to make myself a concrete vision of what I want. Then in Photoshop, I'm really able to hone in on the finer details, proper designs, and color. And this variety isn't limited to purely drawing forms, for instance, what you're hearing right now. I also do voice acting work in my spare time, which in and of itself can be an extremely empowering activity. In essence, you mentally try to become this given character, giving them emotion, personality, and purpose with just your voice, allowing you to become nearly anyone you'd like. There have been many times I've been furious or sad at current life circumstances, which have led to some of the most powerful vocal takes I've made. The versatility of art-based therapy models are not just limited to the ease in which a client is able to use them, but it can be utilized under nearly all major theories of social work utilized within standard practices, bringing us to the focus of my first major point. For instance, under ecological theory, an individual and their interactions or placement within surrounding systems can be interpreted in many different ways, problems often occurring when one does not fit within their social system. Smaller issues are focused on possible indicators for major issues present which may be causing distress. A quite good format for this sort of investigation is our most recent concept map assignment, which allows for a deeper exploration of a central point and their surrounding structures. Using my recent art piece as an example, asking about certain design details, such as the focus on more horror-centric themes, or possible inspiration for how figures are represented, could help more deeply investigate more serious topics. A major benefit of art therapy as a medium is that it is very client-centered and structured, meaning that a large portion of analysis, discussion, and focus is driven by the client. What the practitioner may see the art as may not at all be what the client is expressing. And going with the client's wants and understanding what they mean with their art is a large part of its success. This can greatly aid in the usage of cognitive theory frameworks. Under this theory, the ability for people to achieve their goals in life is often limited by their respective social structures. As a practitioner, your goals are to find the root causes of given irrational behavior and anxiety in the client, and using specific techniques to solve the problem and understand its source. However, especially when a client may be working through issues or trauma that arose from an earlier age, it can be difficult to put situations and feelings into words, which is why art can be a very good way of expressing how one may feel or interpret things in the moment. A client may draw a self-portrait of themselves wrapped in chains, or draw a menacing figure above them, signifying a sort of confinement or feeling of being trapped. This can be extremely useful when focusing on issues of discrimination or social policy, and art allows for a level of expression that is much more visible and understandable to many. For instance, the famous flower thrower art from Banksy, quite well accepted as being made as a statement in replacing violence with peace, in a quite politically charged time period. These all are ways of expressing what is currently limiting us within our lives, and also show what we may want as a path forward, past our limits and current obstacles. Lastly, I feel it can some ways be in the most insightful for certain situations using art-based tools is critical theory frameworks. This theory often centers and focuses on specific social structures and their oppression of certain people of social class, race, gender, and etc., which can lead to extremely emotionally powerful art and a great deal of insight into a client's experiences and history. While it is now mostly seen as a joke, this piece of art, known as the Greedy Pipe Man from artist Basil, is a great example of what can be made under this model. Another great usage would be utilizing and teaching indigenous-based art expression to those who may have faced discrimination or an inability to express that part of their culture and life, art expression being a massive part of indigenous culture and social healing. As I hope I've been able to show, not only is art therapy versatile in its approach for a client, but for the practitioner as well, being applicable under many different theories and perspectives. However, how does one actually go about putting art-based formats into practice? This leads us to our next section, focusing on how different art mediums and methods are used within social work settings. A decent portion of the textbook's coverage on art-based therapy methods and creative arts therapy is focused on its application to theory and its synergy with the more science and evidence-focused work within the field. However, there are two sections I feel are important in deciding how to apply a given art-based method: its definition and the four primary theoretical orientations often used in these models. The definition given by the textbook is the use of art media and creative processes to lead to a finished piece, which is then used to explore a client's feelings, emotional conflicts, self-awareness, social struggles, and other factors, to manage anxiety, improve social skills, and many other positive outcomes. I feel this definition is quite close to how I see it being used. However, I do wish to clarify that discussion throughout the process can be quite important and insightful as well, allowing ideas to develop and manifest both in conversation and visually through the piece. Secondly, I will address the four main areas of theoretical orientation that are often used for how to best approach each individual client and issue. First is the psychodynamic approaches, which more specifically cover cognitive approaches, which we've already covered. The best approach for this sort of method would likely be a discussion of more surface-level topics and issues, continually diving deeper as the client's art evolves, allowing for a dissection of the roots and sources of a given problem. The finished piece is then used for insight in how to solve the issue, addressing all major goals within this framework. The second is a humanistic approach, which greatly focuses on self-awareness, personal and social growth, and accountability. This can be extremely useful in cases of recovering from depression, drug addiction, or family discourse. Methods such as self-portraits and poetry can allow for deep internal reflection and acknowledgement of current obstacles or past setbacks. Third is learning and development approaches, which in and of itself is a great focus within art, and as such art-based methods. Learning a new skill and developing certain ideas and mental strength is a large part of a given method's approach, but the actual development of a new hobby or skill can really prove essential to the process. As I showed above with my art, doing so can bring back a sense of purpose and change one's perspective on their environment for the better. Learning and developing what makes someone passionate and driven can really be a game changer regarding opening up and deeper discussions of present issues. Finally is family-based approaches, which can be insightful in two extremes, both in building familial bonds or understanding why friction and conflict exists within the dynamic. Engaging in activities such as pottery classes or group painting can build quite close bonds and deeper understanding of what each family member wants and appreciates within a group dynamic. At the same time, working with families with current dysfunction, seeing different members' perspectives or interpretations of a given life situation or conflict can help discern the truth and understand a possible path forward to resolution. To conclude, art therapy is an extremely versatile and multi-purpose method which can be used in many different situations, theories, perspectives, and client approaches. Art has been an extremely important part of my life regarding personal growth, understanding, and development of my social skills. I would not be as open to talking with people and as outgoing in social situations if I hadn't spent a large portion of my life practicing singing and doing events live on stage. I would likely not have a meaningful hobby other than video games if it weren't for drawing and voice acting, and I genuinely believe that everyone can find a good sense of purpose and fulfillment from a good hobby, with art being one of the most versatile and approachable. I hope as I evolve this assignment with more examples, firm studies, and benefits to the client, I can show just how important and genuinely helpful art therapy and art-based approaches can be to standard practices.